Velkommen til Heiðinn Hamramr. What is Norse paganism? Let us start with paganism. A pagan was a term used in the Latin-speaking world to denote a person who was rural, from the word pagus, which means country or district, changes into paganus, and then imported into English becomes the term pagan. The term was used in a derogatory and insulting manner. It meant that a person was so rural that they had not adopted Christianity, the religion of the one true God. Pagan was used to say that someone was apostate or not the correct religion. However, since atheism is the absence of a belief in God, our definition will be used to describe ancient polytheism. Pagan becomes a synonym for one with polytheistic beliefs because these were the beliefs of people in rural areas. The term heathen means one who dwells on the heath, which is a rural open countryside and carries the same connotation. But it is considered to be a Germanic root word, and as such distinguishes the northwestern European rural practices from the southern ones. The terms are often used interchangeably by those within these religious practices, but do not be surprised if someone prefers one over the other. Norse paganism, sometimes just called heathenism or Norse heathenry, etc., is the collected practices and beliefs of the Norse peoples. These are the collected rural folk beliefs of the people inhabiting northwestern Europe. The various peoples speaking Germanic languages all carry similar practices, right down to the names of their gods. Odin to the Saxons is Odin to the Norse, each dialect of Germanic having its own pronunciation and spelling for this deity. While these all carry a similar list of gods with the same attributes and are essentially the same, each practice was slightly unique to the area. The Norse part denotes that the people spoke Old Norse. While Germanic may be an umbrella term for all the languages with Germanic roots, the Norse refers specifically to the languages hailing from Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and the lands they settled, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. A Norseman may feel affronted to have their language referred to as merely Germanic. This is because each locale takes particular pride in their distinct language and customs, which, as I mentioned, can vary from place to place. Now that we know who the Norse are and what paganism isn't, let us define what pagan practices were. Pagans practice a branch of polytheistic beliefs derived from animism. Animism is the idea that all things have a spirit. The difference between Christians and pagans might largely be defined as Christians believe in one spirit who gave everyone a soul, and paganism believes all things have an individual spirit. Now, while animism believes all things have a spirit, some things have great and strong spirits. The sky has storms that can destroy homes. The ocean can sink ships, and food is the ever-present necessity for life. From these primal forces arise a sense of their spirit. So their forces within the world, these forces become the very first deities in animism. Gods of fire, of the sun, of the hunt, of fertility, the sky, the ocean, etc., etc. Since the Norse pantheon derives from an animistic practice, its deities too represent these forces. However, they do not offer their favor for free. Sacrifice is an essential component for pagans, and it comes from a place of knowledge and experience. When you nourish the soil with leftover food or animal blood, the soil does well. Science will tell us all the reasons for this as well, but in times past it was enough to know that giving back to nature boded well for future harvests. The most logical explanation for this system is simply that it worked. The system became the root for many generations, the correct sacrifice for the favored result. It should be noted that with every practice in paganism, the idea in all places where it thrived as a religion, it was practiced in such a way that people could read the signs of what to do to please the god or goddess. We shall use Jord, as an example, since we all live on her. Jord is earth. Jörð, earth. It's the same word in a different language. Jord is a goddess representing the fertile soil, but also the land in which we reside. She is an ancient and primal deity because she represents a force that has been here from the beginning of our existence. Jord has its own nature or spirit to it. It can be dry and in want of water. It can be lush and overgrown with bountiful fruits or beautiful flowers. It can be covered with sprawling forests full of huntable game animals. For all those things to be, they needed something. Trees need to plant seeds in good soil. Good soil needs moisture. It needs nutrition. This is why proper offerings for Jord were always for the animals that lived there and tended to its health, like birds. It was for the predator animals like wolves and bears who would hunt the game that ate the trees and the shrubs. It was for the plants themselves who nourished themselves from the decaying matter of food and dead animals. This is the nature of Jord. The Norse knew not to spill boiling hot water from their fire ranges onto the open earth that flourished. They knew it would scorch the land, and they did not want to ruin the relationship they had between themselves and their source of life. Something to think about is the degradation of belief systems and superstitions. For every great sage amongst a people there comes a few rotten ones that spread with good intentions a kind of poison that pollutes what is otherwise a good thing. In the case of paganism, there was a downfall that took place. Paganism fell prey to superstition to the point that most of its practice is shrouded in superstitious beliefs and practices, some of which largely do not benefit the deities or spirits whom they are designed to serve. The truth is the most important factor. Truth is knowing that for all the good that pagan practices brought with their understanding of the spiritual nature of things, there were people who would come up with all sorts of ideas about who or what to sacrifice. They would create obscure rituals that would ultimately not be rooted in reality. Some that are rooted in reality would easily get lumped into an identical category and be labeled as nonsense by people who ultimately just wanted to sell people different nonsense. If nobody speaks out against it, then the people who have all the power over the conversation end up being the ones who ultimately control the narrative, potentially misrepresenting the truth. So to that end, I will describe what others in this field of study have also said. The Norse practiced what is known as sympathetic magic. This is to say that the Norse knew of the nature of things, and their methods and rituals were designed in such a way as to encourage success in things. If the end result was not good, they did not continue the practice. It is also the reason why no two cultures practiced their paganism in an identical manner, because different environments required different things. The polytheistic religion of Animism survived for thousands of years in various forms, always changing with the times for what was needed. This is because a religion of nature adapts itself to the needs of nature. The deities take on the forms that are most alike to the people practicing them. In the south, the sun deity Apollo is a strong, overbearing, and proud god. In the north, the goddess Sunna is a warming and kind, feminine archetype. Both of them represent the sun. So to recap, paganism is the collected folk practices of people in rural areas for the sake of their continued success in a rural environment. Their methods are based in the natural and observable, but maintain deities that they pay respect and offerings to. Their methods can be understood through the study of nature and the deities in their everyday life. If you liked this segment by Heiðinn Hamramr, please leave a comment in the section below. If you have a question, please subscribe and write "I subbed" and then your question below, and I will get back to you with an answer. Ha det bra, och vi ses nästa gång.